why Birdie and Rizzo? That Birdie and Trudino.
I mean, they got a lefty going. Kind of, I'd say the first one we faced this postseason, because I don't count Reagan's because he's so the other way. Trevi's an important part of this club, and have a ton of confidence in him and what he brings to the table too. So that with Birdie, also just I loved how he looked in the division series. Loved the dynamic he brings to the table. And I kind of went into this series knowing that it might be Boyd in Game 3. Probably that'd be the day coming off an off day with Riz. Now Riz is giving me pause though, just with how good he's looked. But I still want to be mindful of what he is playing with and through, and feel like a lot of this is the confidence I have in John too, and what he can bring to the table here.
Other questions?
Aaron, in winning 5 of these first 6 games in the playoffs, what are some of the things you like most from what you've seen?
I think a little of everything. Obviously, we've pitched really well and been able to close out games. When we've had a lead, we've been able to close it out. I feel like for the most part, our starters have either been outstanding or at least getting us off to a good enough start to go win a baseball game. I feel like we've caught the ball pretty well. I feel like the at-bat quality's been there. Again, haven't necessarily totally broken through offensively, but I feel like we've given ourselves a lot of chances really night in and night out. And I feel like a lot of guys in the lineup are putting together a lot of really good, heavy, tough at-bats. And that's how we want to be. And, hopefully in one of these games we really break out and throw a big one up there. But that said, you get in the playoffs, and I think we've scored 5 and 6 in these first 2. And feel like there's still more, we've even left some on the table. So really like where everyone's at, just from a intent and focus and playing with confidence. And but that's all it is so far. We understand we got another important one in front of us tonight.
When you talk about pitching, how much does it help to have like a normal pitching staff, like where you can throw out an actual starting pitcher every game and let him go until he's the other 4 teams, the other 3 teams are always scrambling.
I mean, hopefully it's. I think right now with the teams left, it is probably something that differentiates us a little bit, because I feel like we're going to roll out 4 really good starters at you that have a chance to get us deeper into a game, and hopefully set our pen up even to be used even better, and that's with Stroh down in the pen. Part of it is we've been able to remain fairly healthy from a starting rotation, which I think is one of the reasons we were able to win our division and secure the best record in the American League. It starts with those guys and them being able to go to the post as consistently as they did this year. But like where all those guys are, and like the chance they give us every time each one of them takes the ball.
Other questions? Anthony?
I saw Adam Score made a comment about you guys. He felt like you played with more joy this year, looser, more appreciation of the moment, what have you. Mm-hmm. 1, do you agree with that? And 2, is that intentional? Where does that come from?
I mean, we always try to strike that balance. We talk about perspective a lot, especially playing in New York, different times of the year for different individuals. Sometimes as a team, it can be challenging, and try to have that perspective and try to remind the guys, hey, as we go through this, and there's times where it's pressure-packed or it's hard or you're going through a tough stretch, having that perspective of how lucky we are to get to do this. So come to, showing up, to do your job with some joy. I mean, it is something we're mindful of, and try to remind, I try to remind the staff, when we're going through it and you're grinding every single day, hey, we did this because we love it and we're good at it, and making sure you have joy in what you're doing, I think, is an important element to a team.
for you guys, mid-season when you were going through it? Was that?
I don't know. I feel like this group has done a really good job, even when we're going through, some low moments of the season or we're getting tested at different times, a really good way about them. And through it all, I felt like at times we're even remarkably confident. It's like, let's go, boys. And they were, showing up every day, like unfazed, unworried, understanding the adversity and the grind you face in a season. But to their credit, they've done a great job with that.
John, right here.
You mentioned Stroman. The way the first 6 postseason games have gone, you guys haven't had to go too deep into your roster in a lot of ways. There's high-level relievers you haven't used yet and things like that. What is the work involved in keeping everyone sharp and ready when they haven't been out there yet in a long time?
Well, I mean, like for Luis Heel, he threw a 4-inning sim game, so he'll be going on his 5th day. And obviously had his side in between. We got a few of our relievers that were on the Division Series roster that either barely pitched or didn't pitch. They got a live inning in a sim game. They'll get off the mound when they haven't for a couple days just to, try and stay as sharp as you can. Nothing's perfect this time of year just with how the series go, and that's part of it. You're not always going to have everyone on their 5th or 6th day for the starters, or, relievers aren't always going to get used, or you're getting used a lot, and you got to go to the whip a little bit more. So that's just the nature of October baseball, and, you got to be prepared as best you can mentally for it, and, we do all we can to keep them as sharp as possible.
How much of that balance is a mental thing and that versus a physical thing? I mean, how much do those?
Yeah, I think that's part of it, without question. But I think also, I feel like our pitching group does a really good job with making sure that, these guys are getting some volume in what they do, and especially for the guys that maybe haven't worked in a handful of days or something. So you want to try to keep them as sharp as you can with things they're doing physically. But there's certainly a mental component to that, too.
Questions? Ben?
When you look at these next 3 days, 3 games in a row, is it on the table in your mind to use certain relievers each day if you needed to?
No, it's game 3. So we'll see what's available to us as we go through our catch play and all that, and, we'll circle up. I'll circle up with our pitching group and try and come up with a plan of, striking that balance between making sure guys are fresh and, but, we spend the whole season, too, being real vigilant on making sure we're protecting guys and monitoring their workloads and things like that. When we get to this time of year, hopefully there's a couple weeks left, but, it's here we go. And guys understand that.
Over here.
Aaron, how important is it to have somebody like Stroman in your bullpen if you do need to cover a lot of innings in one game if something goes wrong?
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly one of the things he'll bring. Again, he's been now for a few weeks off his normal routine, and he's one of those guys that try to keep as sharp as possible. He's had a couple of sim game scenarios to try and keep his volume of pitches up as best we can. Because he wasn't on the Division Series roster too, so he threw in the middle of that. But yeah, I mean, it's certainly something that he could potentially bring to the table that he may become very valuable in this series.